getting national attention for the way that she's spending taxpayer dollars.
The Investigates has learned South suburban politician Tiffany Henyard has lost another key ally. Until recently, has information that indicates the FBI has launched an investigation into controversial.
In a shocking twist worthy of a political thriller, the FBI raided the home of Tiffany Henyard, the self-proclaimed super mayor of Dolton, Illinois, uncovering a hidden fortune worth millions. What began as a story of a small-town leader with big ambitions has unraveled into an epic scandal, exposing alleged public fund misuse and an extravagant lifestyle that rivals Hollywood's elite. Once known for her bold proclamations and larger-than-life persona, Henyard now faces intense public scrutiny as a federal investigation shines a harsh light on her reign. The raid revealed not only a staggering amount of hidden cash, but also a tale of unchecked opulence, lavish vacations, designer shopping sprees, a $500,000 driveway for her mother, and other eye-popping expenditures. Her spending habits have drawn comparisons to celebrities like the Kardashians, but unlike reality TV stars, her luxury was allegedly bankrolled by the very people she was elected to serve. Meanwhile, Dolton, drowning in $3.5 million of debt, stands in stark contrast to the grandeur of its leader's lifestyle. Henyard's rise to power was swift and dramatic. After the sudden death of former Mayor Frank Zuccarelli, she assumed leadership, raising eyebrows but silencing doubts with grand promises and an air of ambition. However, those promises quickly crumbled as controversies mounted. Under her administration, transparency became virtually non-existent, and critics were swiftly silenced. By 2021, she officially cemented her hold on Dolton, winning the mayor's seat and expanding her influence by simultaneously taking on the role of Thornton Township supervisor. This consolidation of power boosted her annual earnings to a staggering $200,000. But with great power came even greater allegations of abuse. What unfolded under Henyard's leadership could be described as a spectacle of political excess and control. Critics accused her of ruling Dolton like a monarch, treating municipal funds as her personal piggy bank while residents suffered under mismanagement. Now, as federal investigators dig deeper, the once glorified super mayor finds herself at the center of a scandal that could bring her empire crashing down. Reports have detailed staggering spending under Tiffany Henyard's administration, including extravagant trips to Las Vegas, excessive security measures, and questionable donations to her charity, an organization allegedly lacking any real accountability. Henyard is accused of mastering the art of intimidation, securing unwavering loyalty from allies while ensuring that those who dared to challenge her faced swift consequences. Critics and dissenters were met with hostility or outright dismissal, fostering an environment where questioning her actions came at a cost. Despite her tight grip on power, cracks in Henyard's carefully crafted image began to show. Dolton's financial crisis became impossible to ignore. Public funds were vanishing at an alarming rate, roads were left in disrepair, municipal services crumbled, and the once hopeful residents of the town began to lose faith. Meanwhile, relentless, critics flagged her questionable financial practices, pointing to exorbitant public expenditures seemingly aimed at personal luxury rather than community welfare. Social media became a battleground, with outraged citizens demanding answers. Posts flooded in, condemning the misuse of taxpayer money and questioning how Henyard's extravagance had gone unchecked for so long. The breaking point came with the FBI's involvement. Agents uncovered evidence suggesting that her misconduct extended far beyond financial negligence, delving into outright corruption and personal enrichment. The millions of dollars found hidden during the raid only confirmed what many Dolton residents had suspected all along. As these revelations surfaced, Henyard responded with defiance, dismissing the accusations as politically motivated attacks aimed at tarnishing her reputation. She took to social media in an attempt to rally supporters, posting cryptic messages urging solidarity. But her efforts did little to quell the mounting outrage, and calls for her resignation grew louder. Now, the question remains, can Henyard's defense hold up against the weight of such damning evidence? Or will the federal investigation dismantle her administration entirely? Rumors persist that her once loyal inner circle is fracturing under the pressure, with some former allies allegedly cooperating with investigators to protect themselves. Each passing day brings new revelations, deepening the scandal and leaving Dolton residents to wonder just how much more will come to light. Henyard's tenure began with grand promises: revitalization, support for veterans and seniors, and ambitious new developments meant to uplift the struggling community. But what started as an inspiring vision has unraveled into a shocking tale of financial misconduct and self-serving extravagance. Federal investigators continue to dig deeper, exposing troubling evidence of public funds being funneled into a lifestyle that betrayed the very people she vowed to serve. And for the residents of Dolton, the true cost of Henyard's leadership is only just coming into focus. One of the most controversial aspects of Tiffany Henyard's tenure was the so-called Henyard Care Foundation, a breast cancer charity that initially appeared to be a noble cause, but was soon revealed as little more than a front. Many of the generous donations it received were reportedly funded by taxpayer dollars, leading to suspicions that the charity was just another avenue for Henyard to misappropriate public funds. This discovery further infuriated Dolton's hardworking residents, who realized that their hard-earned tax dollars were financing Henyard's lavish vacations, extravagant dining, and a designer handbag collection that could rival a luxury boutique. 1. Of the first red flags under Henyard's leadership was her extravagant travel spending. In just 5 months, she reportedly burned through $67,000 on travel alone, an amount that eclipses the annual income of many Dolton residents. While the town's budget was hemorrhaging, Henyard appeared to be living a life of luxury more suited to a reality TV star than a public servant. The outrage was palpable as taxpayers saw their town's financial woes deepen, while their mayor indulged in a life of excess. A particularly notorious example of Henyard's disregard for public funds was her trip to Springfield, which started as a routine government function, but turned into an all-expenses-paid personal extravaganza. The trip, meant to be a straightforward business endeavor, morphed into a spectacle featuring lavish hotel stays, upscale amenities, and extravagant meals, all funded by taxpayers. Henyard reportedly traveled with a sizable entourage, including her own DJ and drone photographer, and enjoyed motorbike rides, a caravan of vehicles provided by Dolton and Thornton Township, and thousands of dollars in meals, all paid for by public funds. Adding to the absurdity, Henyard allegedly profited from these publicly funded expenditures in strange ways, such as selling T-shirts and hoodies ordered with Thornton Township funds. When questioned about these transactions, she refused to provide any explanation, raising suspicions of gross mismanagement and self-interest. Her blatant disregard for transparency only deepened the mistrust of the community, who began to wonder how much of their tax dollars had been funneled into questionable ventures. Perhaps the most audacious display of Henyard's self-promotion was her use of taxpayer funds to plaster her face on large billboards across Dolton, not for a campaign, but simply to glorify herself. This brazen act of vanity ignited widespread criticism, with both residents and detractors condemning the use of public funds for personal promotion while essential municipal needs went unmet. Henyard's spending spree didn't stop with billboards and luxury trips. Her time in office was marked by costly business trips, self-promotion campaigns, and indulgent luxuries, all at the expense of Dolton's struggling taxpayers. What began as a promising leadership story has now become a cautionary tale of unchecked power, greed, and the betrayal of public trust. Her tenure as mayor of Dolton has become a textbook case of political scandal, as her extravagant lifestyle stands in stark contrast to the financial struggles of the very community she was sworn to serve. With the town sinking deeper into debt and facing a budget deficit that seemed insurmountable, Henyard appeared increasingly detached from the hardships of her constituents. Reports suggest she turned Dolton and Thornton Township into personal ATMs, withdrawing public funds for her own benefit while deflecting accountability. This attitude of impunity alienated the very residents who had once placed their faith in her leadership, shattering their confidence in her ability to guide the town toward recovery. As federal investigators dug deeper into her actions, mounting evidence of misconduct raised serious questions about her priorities, ethics, and governance. Despite her attempts to deflect blame, claiming political sabotage by her detractors, Henyard's refusal to address the growing allegations only eroded her credibility. Her attempts to rally support through self-aggrandizing social media posts and vague calls for solidarity fell flat as the community's anger continued to build. What started as a promising leadership narrative has now unraveled into a troubling pattern of ethical breaches and alleged illegal activities. Henyard's misuse of public funds, once seen as simple overreach, now paints a damning picture of a leader more concerned with her image and personal gain than the well-being of her struggling constituents. Public funds that were meant for community development were reportedly siphoned off to bolster Henyard's brand and support her lavish lifestyle. From exorbitant spending to questionable security arrangements, Henyard's time in office exemplified ego-driven leadership, which only worsened Dalton's financial crisis. One of the most glaring examples of her mismanagement was Tiffany Henyard's administration has ignited widespread anger, with residents feeling the weight of her alleged mismanagement. Her unapologetic self-promotion, including using taxpayer money to fund billboards with her own image, has sparked intense criticism. The act, widely condemned for its ethical implications and insensitivity in a financially struggling town, was defended by Henyard as part of her leadership strategy. However, this justification fell flat as the community faced growing financial strain and unmet needs, and skepticism about her priorities deepened. While some supporters called her actions ambitious leadership, the weight of the allegations against her quickly overshadowed those defenses. Henyard's time as mayor of Dalton has spiraled into a chaotic series of accusations of corruption, retail fraud, and misconduct, leaving residents outraged and her leadership under intense scrutiny. Despite mounting questions about her actions, Henyard dismissed the backlash, attributing it to the pressures of being a public figure. However, public office does not provide immunity for mismanaging public funds, and Henyard's alleged actions have plunged the town into a multi-million-dollar deficit, intensifying residents' frustrations. One of the most alarming claims involves Henyard allegedly using public funds to finance lavish vacations with her staff, all while Dalton's budget continued to deteriorate. Her indulgent lifestyle, starkly contrasting the financial struggles faced by her constituents, has become emblematic of her tenure. Her leadership is now seen as a cautionary tale of the dangers of unchecked power and the exploitation of public resources for personal gain. The scandal surrounding Henyard goes beyond financial mismanagement. Allegations of retribution against those who challenged her leadership have further tarnished her reputation. Her administration has earned a reputation for punishing dissent, with employees and business owners who failed to comply with her demands reportedly becoming targets. One notable example is Boeing Thrash, a longtime employee of Thornton Township, who claims he was unjustly dismissed after refusing to participate in Henyard's schemes. Thrash alleges that Henyard attempted to replace the township attorney with someone of her choosing and offered him a $100,000 pay increase to cooperate. When he refused, he was fired, a move widely seen as retaliatory and indicative of Henyard's vindictive leadership style. Thrash's case is only one of many legal battles brewing against Henyard. Former employees have filed several lawsuits, accusing her of wrongful termination, harassment, and retaliation. Carmen Carlisle, a former trustee and member of Henyard's inner circle, has turned whistleblower, publicly criticizing the mayor's alleged deceptive practices and exposing a culture of intimidation within the administration. Carlisle claims Henyard used police resources to intimidate critics, even sending officers to their homes in an attempt to silence dissent. These actions have been described as an abuse of power, contributing to a growing sense of fear and distrust among Dalton residents. In addition, Henyard's former assistant, P. Dukes, has filed a lawsuit alleging sexual harassment during a taxpayer-funded trip. Dukes claims that after reporting the harassment, she faced swift retaliation, including being placed on unpaid medical leave. The rising number of lawsuits paints a damning picture of an administration filled with ethical violations, mismanagement, and a blatant. Under Tiffany Henyard's leadership, the town of Dalton has descended into turmoil, with many questioning her fitness to govern. Allegations of corruption, retaliation, and financial mismanagement have become commonplace, and reports suggest that Henyard's administration has fostered a toxic political environment. Workers have allegedly been pressured to spy on critics and dig up dirt on her opponents, turning public service into a tool for personal gain. Despite these accusations, Henyard vehemently denies the claims, dismissing them as part of a smear campaign during a heated village board meeting. However, the growing body of evidence contradicts her defense. Dalton now faces a $2 million deficit, with unpaid debts for essential services like street paving and tree trimming continuing to pile up. Even worse, the town hasn't undergone an annual audit since 2021, leaving its finances in chaos and lacking proper oversight. This absence of financial accountability has only fueled public outrage, with Henyard's administration under increased scrutiny. The financial mismanagement extends beyond missing audits and mounting debt. Henyard's tenure is also tied to a disastrous $3 million spending debacle, with allegations of blank checks and skyrocketing police expenses. In response to the scandal, former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot was called in to investigate, and her findings have been nothing short of damning. The evidence supports claims of unethical and reckless spending, painting Henyard's administration as a far cry from the positive change that was initially promised. As trust in her leadership erodes, Dalton is left grappling with the fallout. Henyard's leadership has been further tainted by numerous lawsuits, financial deficits, and misconduct reports, leaving residents and critics alike questioning her ability to govern. Under her watch, Dalton's financial situation has worsened, with the town facing a staggering $65 million deficit and a 21% increase in department expenses. Henyard's attempts to shift blame onto others, including her former right-hand man, Keith Freeman, have been widely criticized as hollow and unconvincing. Freeman, now charged with bankruptcy fraud, is rumored to be cooperating with investigators, potentially adding fuel to the firestorm surrounding Henyard's leadership. Despite mounting evidence, Henyard has continued to play the victim, insisting she was misinformed about Dalton's financial woes and claiming she had no knowledge of the growing deficits. However, this narrative has been met with skepticism, and her insistence on blaming Freeman for all irregularities is seen as a desperate attempt to deflect responsibility. Observers note that Henyard's administration has been marked by unchecked extravagance, and many believe her attempts to shift blame are an effort to avoid accountability. One of the most troubling aspects of Henyard's tenure is the police department's staggering spending increases. Given the financial hardships facing Dalton residents, these expenses have raised alarms, with many viewing the town's financial decisions as reckless rather than responsible. Henyard has dismissed her critics, claiming that their accusations are politically motivated attacks. However, the scale of the financial discrepancies suggests a deeper issue, either mismanagement or, worse, intentional misconduct. As Dalton's financial crisis deepens, residents are demanding transparency and accountability. Instead of taking responsibility, Henyard continues to dig in her heels, dismissing the allegations and portraying herself as a victim of a conspiracy. Her refusal to confront the unfolding reality in Dalton has alienated many, and rumors are now circulating that Freeman, weighed down by his own legal troubles, is providing investigators with critical information about Henyard's alleged schemes. This revelation could ultimately bring her administration to the brink of collapse. But the chaos surrounding Henyard's leadership extends beyond financial mismanagement. There are also widespread allegations of intimidation and retaliation against those who speak out. Workers have reportedly been coerced into gathering information on political opponents, pointing to an abuse of power that suggests Henyard views the town not as a community to serve, but as a battleground to win. At any cost, Dalton's financial stability is teetering on the edge, with mounting scandals surrounding Mayor Hanna's administration. The town is grappling with serious allegations of financial mismanagement, intimidation, and an ever-growing deficit, painting a grim picture of leadership gone awry. For many residents, the breaking point has already been reached. Hanna's refusal to address the crisis with transparency or take responsibility has only worsened the situation. Instead of offering accountability, her administration has resorted to finger-pointing, denial, and divisive tactics, alienating the very people they serve. Observers have noted that the lack of financial accountability, combined with a failure to tackle the crisis head-on, has left the town in an increasingly precarious state. Jason House, a local figure, has been leading the charge in calling out Hanna for her lavish taxpayer-funded trips and the multi-million-dollar deficit. Yet Hanna has dismissed these criticisms, instead accusing her detractors of a smear campaign and claiming that the village board is targeting her because she is a woman. Critics have rejected this argument, viewing it as a weak excuse to deflect from her administration's failures. The situation has grown so dire that the state of Illinois has intervened, freezing Dalton's funds and treating the town as an irresponsible teenager whose allowance has been revoked. Meanwhile, the FBI has stepped in to investigate Hannah, with agents searching her home for evidence of corruption. What they uncovered was not just pocket change, but significant sums of hidden cash, raising serious questions about her financial dealings. The FBI's investigation goes beyond just the cash found at Hannah's residence. Agents are also examining her financial records, company filings, and the operations of her controversial charity. With charges such as wire fraud and embezzlement potentially looming, Hannah's political career could be at risk, depending on the investigation's outcome. These developments have left Dalton residents demanding answers and a full overhaul of the town's leadership. Dalton has been thrown into disarray, with state funds frozen and the town's finances in ruins. Without decisive action to address the fallout, the path to recovery looks bleak. Many are now questioning why more wasn't done to prevent Hannah's reckless behavior from spiraling out of control. Hannah's tenure has been marked by accusations of extravagant spending, misuse of public funds, and unchecked power. This has created a toxic environment where personal gain seems to have taken precedence over the community's well-being. The FBI's investigation is now digging into these allegations, and if the accusations are proven true, it would suggest that Hannah violated the trust of her constituents on a large scale. To restore order in Dalton, a complete clean house is needed. Hannah and any accomplices must be held accountable, and a trustworthy, competent administration must be put in place. Critics argue that Hannah's failure to uphold accountability allowed her to misuse her power and resources without consequences. Beyond the immediate scandal, the long-term question is, who will step up to lead Dalton out of this financial crisis? The next leader must rebuild Dalton's tarnished image and restore the public's trust in local governance. Despite Hannah's attempts to dismiss the allegations as personal attacks, mounting evidence continues to stack up against her. For Dalton's residents, it's a painful reality to see their mayor allegedly treat the town's finances like a personal piggy bank. With frozen state funds and a growing deficit, they are left wondering how things reached this point. The situation underscores the larger importance of financial oversight and ethical governance in public office. Dalton's financial chaos highlights the critical need for transparency and accountability, particularly for local governments with limited resources. Hannah's story serves as a cautionary tale about the consequences of betraying public trust and the dangers of unchecked power. Looking forward, Dalton's priorities are clear. First, the town must ensure that Hannah's alleged mismanagement does not set a precedent for future leadership. Re-establishing sound financial practices and implementing robust accountability measures will be essential to regain residents' trust. Second, those responsible for this crisis must face justice. As the FBI continues its investigation, the outcome could serve as a turning point for Dalton, signaling a renewed commitment to transparency and ethical governance.